For the CSCI 410/610 course, this is our final project. We looked at forensic analysis of digital evidence to investigate cyberbullying in social media. I'm Carl Johnson.
I am Bekadu Kobro.
And I'm Sam Griffin.
So to start off, let's talk about why cyberbullying. Well, cyberbullying because it is becoming increasingly common. Uh, Roughly 1/4 of all teens in the United States experience cyberbullying. And when we're talking about the range of 13 to 15-year-olds, this is when they are at their most vulnerable. Um, and cyberbullying at this age especially can lead to anger problems, isolation, depression, and even physical illness. So with this research, we aim to answer these three questions. First, what are the indicators of cyberbullying in digital evidence? So how can we identify cyberbullying? Second, what digital forensic techniques and tools can be used to investigate cyberbullying? And third, how can digital forensic analysis contribute to the identification and handling of cyberbullying incidents on social media? I'll hand it to Sam.
So, looking through different scholarly articles and papers, we put together a list of indicators of cyberbullying behaviors. Some of these include slandering, revealing secrets, identity theft, flaming, cyber stalking, impersonation, outing, exclusion, and harassment. This is not a complete list, as indicators can vary, but they act as an important starting point for forensic investigations. The NIST Investigation Framework is a modern forensic framework used by law enforcement to extract and acquire digital evidence from devices. We used a modified NIST Investigation Framework in this project. The steps involved start with preparation, which is recording the details like time, date, place, and the nature of harassment, whatever is available at the time. This is sort of the beginning of the investigation, as if you will. Then we move on to the data source collection, which is actually collecting the digital evidence, whether that be a cell phone or a PC. Then we move on to preservation. Preservation of the evidence is extremely important that it's done properly. It needs to have the proper chain of custody and documentation, and this is the step where that happens. Once that chain of custody and documentation is set up, then we can work on data acquisition, which is the safe transfer of data from those digital evidences to a forensic lab or a forensic machine. Once it's on there, we can finally start to analyze that data, figure out who's talking to who, whatever evidence we can get from it. And then finally, once we have all the information that we can get, we go to the reporting stage to report and conclude, sort of summarize the investigation and wrap it up all nicely. I'm going to hand it off to Bekadu.
Thanks, Sam. So I'm going to talk about the data acquisition part and how do we do the preservation. And like Sam mentioned before, proper maintenance of we have to follow up with the best practices, things like chain of custody. We have to document everything who is involved in this data, especially in the forensic lab once the data is placed in safe, so that this evidence will be acceptable in the courtroom. Like Sam explained it before, we should follow the NIST documentation procedure. Also, we should do, after that, we should do when we extract the data, we should do forensic imaging. That means we should keep the original data, or even if we have the device confiscated, even if we have that, we just preserve the original data and do the investigation on the forensic image or on the copy of that. Also, when we do this, we should also consider the Fourth Amendment, before we confiscate the device, we should have a probable cause to do that, and we need to get a proper warrant. Once we follow up these best practices, we can also use we can use tools to acquire the data or to extract the data. Tools like Forensic Toolkit and Oxygen Forensic Suite. And I'll get you back to Carl. I mean, Sam.
So for data and analysis, there's sort of three main analyses that we can use to gain important data. That is text analyses, network analysis, and metadata analysis. Starting with text analysis, let's say, for example, someone sends a tweet or just sort of any sort of message that's just text-based. Well, we can use keyword searching to find harmful or threatening language, as well as sentiment analysis by tools like Monkeylearn or Social Mention tool that sort of tell you the intent behind the message. This allows for us to either get a groundwork intent or sort of some background into the message. Moving on to network analysis, we can perform network analysis to understand who is connected to whom. This is really important because it reveals sort of the social dynamics behind the relationships. The different interactions that happens on these platforms, it can be tangled up between multiple different accounts, multiple different platforms, and what these network analysis tools help us do is identify the potential perpetrators and victims, and then draw the line between who's the victim, who's the perpetrator, when did it happen. Moving on to metadata analysis, any image or message that's sent come with identifiers like the time they were sent, the date that they were sent, and sometimes the location that they were sent from. And the tools that we can use are EnCase, EXIF tools, and ImageMagick. There's a million different tools out there for metadata analysis, but it gives exact starting points and endpoints to the investigation, which is extremely important. I'm going to hand it off to Carl now.
And this is just what some of these programs look like. On the left side, we have EnCase. In the middle, we have ImageMagick. And on the right side, we have EXIF tools. And these are some of the more popular metadata analysis tools. As it comes for content analysis software, there's AMPed, and then there's photo forensics. Beck, if you would.
All right. So when we talk about the results, so the objective of this class project was to identify what are the indicators of cyberbullying behaviors. So once we identify these behaviors, we can use the tools and techniques. So based on the research, based on the scholarly articles, we have identified a number of cyberbullying indicator behaviors, such as cyber stalking, flaming, so many behaviors like that. We can use the existing tools. There are a lot of tools out there, tools and techniques, and follow-up frameworks like NIST framework to document our work and to extract useful insights. So using these tools and techniques, we can effectively investigate cyberbullying situations and provide the necessary report to the law enforcement.
So to conclude this presentation, cyberbullying is becoming more commonplace. We live in a much more digital era, and social media is in everyone's pockets and it's on everyone's minds, especially when it comes to youth and teenagers. They're much more susceptible to the cyberbullying aspect thereof. And when we look at Instagram and Facebook being some of the top perpetrators, or at least receivers of this, they are owned by the same company. This means that if the Meta platform implemented a robust detection system using some of these tools, then they would be able to effectively stop a lot of these messages before they're ever sent to the recipient. As for when it comes to an investigation of a serious incident, there are current tools on the market that can be used to investigate this. One of the big things that we've found is that there are a lot of tools that can already be used for these purposes. It's just that there's work needed to integrate them into this type of investigation. But it can be done. Here are some of our references, but otherwise that is all. If there are any questions or comments, please feel free to email us back and we will be sure to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you and have a nice evening.